Today we drive Hyundai India's latest flagship electric vehicle that promises driving range of over 600 kilometers among premium features. And we bring you sights and sounds from the inaugural all-electric Hyderabad E-Prix. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I'm Soini Dutt. As you can see, it's a very electric show we have lined up for you today. Let's start off with the all-new Hyundai Ioniq 5. It is probably the most important electric vehicle that Hyundai builds globally today. It is the brand's first ground-up electric vehicle that promises to offer over 600 kilometers of driving range and also level 2 ADAS features. Tuhin will get you all the details.
Now, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is probably the Korean car maker's most important car globally as of right now. It's finally here in India as its new flagship, and it's filled with the kind of fresh, out-of-the-box thinking that will endear electrics to buyers. As it stands, it's also got 631 kilometers of range and is locally assembled, so it should be a good deal as well. This is down to the rupees 45.95 lakh asking price. So even though the Ioniq is very closely related to the Kia EV6 with the same eGMP architecture, Hyundai has been able to position this car within a gap in the EV segment using just a simple rear motor setup and a smaller 72.6 kWh battery pack. Now, the first thing that you need to know about the Ioniq 5 is that it's quite a bit larger than what it looks like on screen or in photos. Now, this crossover-ish hatchback mishmash kind of shape, this very funky look, hides the fact that this is longer and wider than the Tucson, if not as tall. But yes, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 is really quite a large car. What will catch your eye immediately though is this neo-retro styling. It takes inspiration from the Hyundai Pony from 1975, the first Korean-developed car. You see this in the double-barrel light design, enhanced here in a deep-set cluster with the seamless black band. But it's the detailing that lifts it, the pixelated LED DRLs and the hidden striations for the full-width lighting being the most prominent. The look is also especially clean. There are no visible radar sensors and the flaps in the bumper only open on the move for cooling the battery and ventilation. Now, it's very clear the benefits that Hyundai has been able to achieve using this EV-only eGMP architecture. For example, you don't see this very often in EVs for some reason, but there's a proper front trunk or a fruit or whatever you want to call it. It's 57 liters, so you can actually use it for more than just your chargers. And that continues when you move to the side as well. Of course, you have these really large 20-inch wheels. We've never seen wheels like this in a Hyundai before, but they're there. The boot is a large 537 liters. It's got a flat or slightly high lip, but a square and useful space. As with many EVs, you don't get a spare wheel with the motor being packed underneath. Overall, despite ground clearance growing to a laden 163 mm for India, the Ioniq 5 is striking with its square squat proportions. Now, while the Ioniq 5 looks quite funky and almost sci-fi-ish from the outside, on the inside there's quite a bit of thought that's gone into it. And to be honest, this to start with is quite a premium interior. So it's simple but really quite thoughtfully done. And then you have this steering wheel, which again is a bit different from regular Hyundais, but has capacitive buttons, these paddles for the regen modes, and these really quite hefty, really nice to use stalks for the indicators, for the wipers, and even the gear levers, almost a Mercedes style sort of stalk mounted here. Same with these two 12.3-inch screens. They have completely new graphics, which are an upgrade over what you've seen in, say, something like the Tucson. Now, the heavy use of white materials, many of which are from recycled waste, is calming, but it will take some cleaning. The white themed instrumentation merges quite nicely with this though. The EV specific graphics are detailed, giving you a great idea of just how far you can go with the battery levels. But what really uplifts this ambience are these really smart touches that Hyundai has done. It's a playful thing, so it really works. For example, there's no H logo here on the horn pad. It's just 4 dots, which is Morse code for the letter H. Very thoughtfully done. And then, of course, this 2-spoke steering wheel that I mentioned, really well made. You have these drive mode switches, again, in quite a sporty manner on the steering wheel. And it doesn't stop there. You get these, aside from the usual lumbar adjustment and the powered adjustments, you also get these leg rests on the seats, if you can see. So there's that added degree of comfort. And then with the EV architecture, of course, there's immense practicality. The door pockets are large. As you can see, it's a step-through floor. There's no central tunnel at all to speak of. And it doesn't stop there. As you can see, you can actually slide this central tunnel back and forth, and just walk through, or maybe put something here if you want to. And as you've come to expect from Hyundai, this is backed up by a really long set of features. But really, if you're spending close to 50 lakhs on a car, the back seat really has to be quite important. And again, with that 3000 mm wheelbase, the Ioniq 5 delivers here in spades as well. For example, there's immense space like the front. It's a fully flat floor. There's barely a hump because it's a skateboard architecture. A lot of knee room and leg room. You can put your feet underneath the front seats. And this is really quite uncommon. A lot of EVs that we drive with their compromised floors, which holds the battery pack, you don't have under thigh support. But with this always being designed as an EV, that problem does not exist. So it really is quite a comfortable bench here. And considering the width, 3 people will easily fit here. And it doesn't stop there. You can slide it forward like this, slide it back, and also recline to quite a comfortable angle. You can do it for both this split and this split. Of course, you have this moon roof. It doesn't open sadly, but it of course has a shade. So yeah, in terms of rear seat comfort too, the Ioniq 5 really does deliver.
Now that's a fully loaded electric vehicle from Hyundai India. We'll tell you all about the powertrain and charging ability of the Ioniq 5 after this very short break. Stay with us, you're watching Overdrive. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. Just before the break, we were out reviewing the Hyundai Ioniq 5. This is the car that is being powered by a 72.6 kilowatt-hour battery pack. It offers over 600 kilometers of driving range. And this car also offers vehicle-to-load function. Let's take a look.
Now the first thing that you notice when you start driving the Ioniq 5 is again another benefit of this EV-only architecture, and that's the sheer amount of visibility that you have. It's larger than the Tucson, like I mentioned before, but on the road it doesn't quite ever feel like that. It feels quite compact on these narrow Goan roads that we're driving on. It feels compact, and that's mainly down to the great visibility that you have. The Ioniq 5 uses a 72.6 kilowatt-hour liquid-cooled lithium-ion battery pack that powers a rear-mounted electric motor. Now the version of the Ioniq 5 that you get in India is the single-motor rear-wheel drive variant. It makes 217 PS and 350 Nm, which is say par for the course for similarly priced ICE SUVs. So in that sense, but of course this being an EV, that sense of performance is slightly enhanced because of how easily accessible the torque is, which means that the Ioniq 5 in any of the modes, the Eco, Normal or even the Sport mode, it feels quite brisk, it feels alert in just the way an EV should. And another great trait is that even at very high speeds, that speeds where you would usually expect EVs to sort of dull down their performance, it doesn't. So even at say 80 or 100, if you want to make an overtake, the Ioniq 5 still has enough performance on tap to give you that overtake without any dip. So in that sense, the performance really does match up to the price, and you will never quite notice or feel that you're in a slow car or feel outgunned by anything on the road. So whether it's on the highway or in the city, the Ioniq 5 will do the job for you. The Ioniq 5 doesn't alter outputs with drive modes, instead just changing pedal response and steering feel. You will also be pleasantly surprised by the Ioniq 5's ride comfort. Despite these large, low-profile 20-inch wheels, the EV feels pliant over our roads. There's only a tinge of the firmness that you usually find in electric vehicles, but this only becomes a hindrance over very rough surfaces. The Ioniq stays flat and poised at higher speeds, with again a plushness that is quite comfortable. This is matched with a competent handling character with that sense of balance that you usually find in rear-driven cars. Yes, there is some roll if you take a corner too quickly, but in regular driving, the Ioniq 5 feels confident with the low-slung weight being well managed. Now you get quite a few regen modes with the Ioniq 5, and these again alter the driving experience. So for example, in the coasting mode, you will find that the Ioniq 5 will move along without too much resistance. It feels like you are freewheeling completely, which isn't quite similar to an ICE, but as you keep going through the regen modes, you notice that the resistance builds, there is a bit more heft to the pedal, the accelerator pedal, and there's generally a slightly different feeling coming from the car. So depending on what you like, for example, we found that in these narrow Goan roads, so the level 2 or the level 3 modes felt the closest to what you would feel in an internal combustion car. Now another regen mode that you don't see very often is an auto regen mode that the Ioniq 5 has. So what this will do is it will keep changing the regen levels, constantly varying it depending on how you're driving. Say if you're in the city and it'll give you more regen, if you're out on the highway, it'll automatically reduce the regen. Now you also get a one pedal driving mode which Hyundai calls the I mode. And yeah, this genuinely is a one pedal driving mode. As you can see, it's come to a complete halt and then you start off again. So yeah, this should be quite useful in traffic conditions if you can get used to driving in this mode, although even a higher regen mode should be fine. Uniquely, the auto regen function uses the radar to judge regen levels, which we found works intuitively enough to not distract from the driving experience. Now when you want to charge the Ioniq 5, you can do it at up to 350 kilowatts, which is really fast considering its 800 volt architecture. But of course, in reality, it's very difficult to find such a fast charger in India, or for that matter, even globally. So in a more attainable 50 kilowatt charger, you can charge it in about 57 minutes, which is still not bad at all. Yeah, the flap opens like this, and an 11 kilowatt hour charging with the bundled AC charger will take about 6 hours 55 minutes. Now another great function is the vehicle to load feature, which will give back 3.3 kilowatts. So you can power, say, laptops and so on with an adapter. You plug that in and you can use the Ioniq 5 to power a lot of gadgets. The Ioniq 5 is a clear step forward for Hyundai in many respects. It is expensive, but Hyundai India has been able to create a package that feels good value. This is down to the clear step up you notice in refinement, build and driving character over its lesser products.
Well, it's time for us to head into our final break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we'll dive right into all the details from India's first ever experience of Formula E at the Hyderabad street circuit. Stay with us, you're watching Overdrive. Welcome back, you're watching Overdrive. We're at round 4 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship right here at Hyderabad City. All the teams are here, and what is very exciting is the qualifying is done and Mitch Evans from the Jaguar TCS Racing team is on pole position. But before we dive into the results, let's first take a look at how all of this began. India returned on the global map for a motorsport event after a decade since Formula One exited the country, and boy were we excited. Formula E is the world's first all-electric racing championship that brings wheel-to-wheel racing action to city centres, and one of the 3 new venues for Season 9 this year was the Hyderabad street circuit.
It has been only 18 months since the first conversation that we had originally with KTR, and frankly, I have to say that this is going to be a massive success tomorrow. We're going to have more than 25,000 people. This is going to be broadcasted for more than 165 countries in the world, and hopefully more than 50 million people will be watching the racing from home, but they will be having a look at this beautiful city of Hyderabad.
While 11 teams with big-ticket manufacturers like McLaren, Maserati, Porsche, Nissan were competing in Season 9 of the Formula E Championship, 2 teams with a strong Indian connect making headlines in India were Mahindra Racing and the Jaguar TCS Racing team.
We are proud to come here as a Mahindra team. You wear the color of a manufacturer who is so strong in the country and so much history behind. So yeah, you know that there is something to deliver which is very special.
It's a big race for us as a team. Obviously, with the TCS partnership, being our title partner, we have a big fan base here. So yeah, the first race for Formula E in India is going to be a special moment.
It's not like Formula One, that you have 3 teams fighting for the lead. and you know that those teams are going to be first, second, third, regardless of what happens. Formula E, you can be first one day, it can be last the other day. We're trying the best we can, but it's always this fine edge that we are working on.
It's a home race, and we can't underestimate the competition though. We have an incredibly competitive championship here in Formula E, incredible car manufacturers, teams and drivers, so we prepare every weekend with a goal absolutely to taste champagne, as we say, to take the top step of the podium, and that's going to be our focus coming this weekend.
Once on track, the 2.83-kilometer street circuit, built alongside the scenic Hussain Sagar Lake, with 18 corners, some of them incredibly fast, was all the drivers could speak of.
It's one of my favourites, what I've driven on the simulator. Hopefully it transfers into real life as well, but the circuit has a really good flow. It's got some good braking zones, so hopefully the overtaking opportunities are good.
I think we will probably see the most overtaking we saw in the pre-events so far, so we're expecting to see a bit more overtaking than Mexico and Diriyah.
In terms of track layout, it's honestly, I think, going to be one of the best. Like, most street circuits are very stop-start, but this one is quite fast and flowing as well. Like, some nice camber, the surface is smooth, so I think it's going to be good.
The Gen 3 Formula E cars weigh under 1,000 kilos, house a 51 kilowatt-hour battery pack and a powertrain capable of producing 350 kilowatt of power. These race cars are capable of touching maximum speed of 320 kilometers per hour, and the drivers can recharge the batteries while racing through regenerative braking.
Everybody says that the car is 40% efficient in terms of energy recuperation. It's a lie. The car is 93% efficient. The 40% takes into account all the energy during the whole race. But if you look at the braking, so if you are, imagine you are accelerating and then there is a red light and you stop the car, it recovers 93% of the energy back. So this is an incredible number. It's like nothing in the planet is anything close to this. If this was the case in every road vehicle, we would have needed maybe half of the battery on them to have the same range in the cities.
While everyone is frantically trying their very best to prepare the cars for the Formula E race right here in Hyderabad, there is one team that comes in as leaders in the team as well as the driver standings, and that is the Tag Heuer Porsche team. We're here to talk to the driver, Pascal Wehrlein. Pascal, you guys have had a crackling starter. The last two races you won, and are you planning to make this a hat-trick this weekend?
For sure, yeah, we're trying hard. So new track, new challenge, first time here, and yeah, obviously with all the success in the last couple of races, we want more of that.
Unlike Formula 1, where qualifying and race day are split by a day, Formula E runs the qualifying session and race on the very same day. Over 25,000 spectators, including the who's who from the film industry and other sporting communities, had flown in from various parts of the country to get a glimpse of the all-electric era of motor racing. After many drivers received a series of penalties for exceeding track limits, Jaguar TCS racing driver Mitch Evans landed a pole for the inaugural Indian E-Prix.
You know, after a 10-year absence, as you know, after Formula 1 went away, we have a World Championship event, and which seems to be quite buzzing and you know, happening. So it's quite nice to be here. Yeah.
It's lovely to have a World Championship event back in India. Certainly, I think the city of Hyderabad is very excited about it. From the airport, I saw billboards and signs, and you know, I went for dinner a couple of nights and saw people in hotels who have flown in from other parts of the country. I believe every hotel room in the city is booked up. So yeah, hats off to the Telangana government and Greenco and everybody involved, because I think the track looks great. I drove it this morning in the Gen 3 Formula E car. I did some laps to try and just get a feel of it, and they've done a great job.
It's a dream come true, right? Because I've always wanted to have a race in India. It's been a burning desire, and I'm happy when I came a year and a half ago to meet the government of Telangana and talk to them, and they were very receptive to this idea. And literally in 13 months, I had my first meeting. We're having this race here. It's a great day for me.
The race saw a constant change of lead through the 33 laps, with pole sitter Mitch Evans losing track position after a miscalculated strategy call and later having his race cut short as a result of an unfortunate shunt caused by his teammate, one that took both Jaguar TCS cars out of any points contention. Halfway through the race distance, it was all about conserving energy and using recuperated energy to attack for new position, and that's when we saw Mahindra Racing drivers briefly climb up the order in 4th and 8th position. At the end of the exciting 33 laps, John-Eric Verne, driving for DS Penske team, held on to the lead with barely 0.2% energy left in his race car from Nick Cassidy, who showed incredible pace and consistency in his Envision racing car, while his teammate Sebastian Buemi's penalty meant an unexpected podium place for Porsche driver Antonio Felix da Costa.
It's nice to come back to India. It's been many years, and it treated me quite well to come here. So I'm quite happy. I hope we can come back.
Look, huge thanks to my guys because I had a great car today. I was extremely fortunate as well. I feel really bad for the rest of our team, Jaguar included, because quite clearly I think this year we have a very strong car in the race.
It's been a tricky start to the year, and we got a little bit lucky with Sebastian picking up that penalty at the end. Nonetheless, a race going forward, that's always a good feeling.
India's very first tryst with Formula E, as you can see, was a major success. The race itself delivered on every count of excitement. We would have liked to see Mahindra Racing or even the Jaguar TCS Racing drivers end up on podium to double up that celebration. Nonetheless, the unpredictability quotient of this sport is what makes Formula E that much more exciting. We are totally hooked. With that, it's a wrap on this week's edition of Overdrive. But remember, you can stay in touch with the team through Facebook, Twitter, as well as YouTube. And you can follow our latest updates on Instagram. We'll see you until next week. Goodbye and many thanks for watching.